Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe. Welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I am Summers McKay.
And I'm Kristy Jansen, and we are part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to one focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy podcast. Today is Friday, the 26th of March, 2021. Well, happy Friday, Kristy. Thank goodness the weekend is soon to be here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, happy Friday.
Are you going to do some hiking? What are you going to do this weekend?
Well, I'm still dealing with it turns out that I have this weird hypermobility thing going on. So I'm learning how to retrain my feet and my ankles so that they don't fall out of place. You know, my bones are a little bit unstable in there. So I will probably do a good walk, maybe a hike with Tucker. That would be nice. He deserves it.
Yeah.
I deserve it. It's a pretty nice day today. So yeah.
Are you doing anything else of major importance this weekend?
Not on the weekend, but later today, I'm going to go get my first vaccine shot.
So exciting. I'm very, very proud of you for getting on that list and getting ahead and getting it done. That's really, really exciting. I know more and more people are being able to get vaccine shots. California is opening to everybody 50 and up. Texas is to every adult. I pre-registered this morning and hopefully we'll get an email soon about availability. I know there are a couple different ways to get on the list around here. So well done. And everyone, go get your vaccines. It's an exciting new chapter for our world that we will be vaccinated. We'll still have social distancing. We'll still mask up. We'll still take precautions, but we can begin to return to a different version, or perhaps, as we said at the Optimist Daily, it's back to something better, a new, better version of what our lives will look like. So I think that's pretty exciting. I had something else exciting happen this morning.
What's that?
I went to Trader Joe's.
Oh, is that your first venturing into the store?
It's my first venturing into the store. Honestly, I've only been to Trader Joe's once during this whole pandemic, and Trader Joe's is just like one of my favorite markets. It's a place that feels good. But this morning, I dropped Brennan off at her school, and we're getting more and more excited about her experience there. And then I had this extra time because I am now on Central Time and you are on Pacific Time. And so I had a little bit of time to hit the supermarket on my way. And it was pretty exciting, and I felt like there were all sorts of new products that I hadn't seen, and I felt like a kid in a candy store, which I guess is what like a soccer mom at a Trader Joe's is, right?
Well, it's funny how you can really appreciate things we used to take for granted when you start going back and doing them, and the trick will be, Summers, to keep that appreciation when it becomes normal again.
Right. To continue to find joy in the small things, even when they become normalized. And I think it's all about understanding happiness and recognizing that gratitude is the fundamental anchor of happiness. And I think gratitude is how I am feeling today. So I just talked about Trader Joe's, which is one of my super favorite companies. And now I'm going to talk about Ikea, which is another one of my super favorite companies. And I am not, this episode has not been brought to you by Ikea or Trader Joe's. However, we wouldn't mind, I guess, if Ikea and Trader Joe's wanted to participate. But anyway, that's another gig. All right. So here's my headline. My headline reads, IKEA's Zero Waste Cookbook will change how you look at scraps. Whether it's eco-friendly tiny homes to purchasing forests for protection, IKEA is definitely a walks the walk and talks the talk company about commitment to environment. They really have committed to being a zero waste business by 2030. And they're helping their customers take that waste reduction strategy as well. This new zero waste cookbook is called Scraps Book, And it expands on the idea of waste-free kitchen by sharing creative and tasty ways to turn food scraps and leftovers into delicious meals, as well as other useful household items. So there are about 50 recipes across the gamut of types of food you would have. And then also, what I love about this is scrappy tips using non-edible food waste. For instance, throwing eggshells into the compost bin, you can grind them into a calcium powder and remove limestone deposits in the bathroom.
Right.
So
instead of, right?
Exactly.
So
You're right. Instead of throwing them into the compost bin. Now, I'm excited because, as we all know, I really, really wanted to compost at our home in Central California, but there simply wasn't room to do it. Now I'm going to have just like a composting compound. But I'm excited to think about this particular tool because it's gonna give me ideas to use household waste for other valuable processes as well. The book is a lot of fun. It's got, everything from a wilted greens smoothie, which I just feel like my whole life changed now that I know what I'm gonna do with my wilted lettuce.
You can use those wilted lettuce in something. You don't have to just throw it away.
Yep. And then there's mac and rinds, which is a twist on the classic pasta dish of mac and cheese that uses cheese rinds. So downloadable by way of a PDF. We have it linked in the Optimist Daily article, but also you can purchase it. It, makes for a great marketing tool for Ikea as well because your dishes are prepared and placed on pretty tables that you can buy from Ikea.
The thing I find interesting about this also is that a lot of these tips are probably kind of ancient. These are things that our great grandmothers knew about how to use food and these wastes, because in the past, the idea of waste, the modern idea of waste, is kind of a new thing.
Yeah.
150 years ago, we didn't just throw stuff away the way we do now. And we've turned into this waste generating, throwing away culture. And so I love it when bringing this idea of finding useful things for things that would otherwise be trash. And that's what I think anything like Ikea or anywhere that pushes us in that direction, I think, is a positive movement towards circularity and getting back to the wisdom of the past, turning it into wisdom of the future.
Exactly. And, it's little stuff like throwing coffee grounds in your garden. Well, that's wisdom that has been around forever. And, then there's the ideas of eggshells and banana peels also being used.
Oh, yeah.
So I have kind of a funny trash story if we have just another minute for me to tell it. But when we got here to our home, there was a green bin and a blue bin. Now in California, a green bin is yard waste. A blue bin is recycling. And we were very stressed out about the fact that we didn't have an actual waste bin, right? There was no trash bin. So we called the trash company, and trash day is Thursday, and they had said we had to wait until that day to get the new trash can and blah, blah, blah. Well, the guy rolls up with his truck full of trash cans. And I was like, gosh, he has a lot of yard bins. I guess like a lot of people need yard bins right now. Well, it turns out in Texas, the green one is the trash can.
Oh,
so we have been filling our green trash bin with yard waste, which is fine. And then had a pile of other waste just sitting on our driveway. And anyway, so culturally, regionally appropriate trash dispensing is probably the next thing we'll pursue on the Optimist Daily. Speaking of more important stories than my own trash can, though, Kristy, what do you do with all of your extra trash? Or in this case?
So this is a fun day because we're talking about food waste, right? And in my past, before I had an actual pet dog, my pet was kombucha. And I had a pet SCOBY, which is what you call a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And that's how you brew kombucha tea, which is it's considered an elixir of health. I think it was originally developed on the steppes of Russia back in the day. I don't know. There's lots of, it's an old brew. You make tea that includes this SCOBY, which helps to digest the sugar and make it into something which is really beneficial for your health. And that's why, kombucha tea, it also it can make it slightly alcoholic as well. Bringing circularity into the fashion industry is something we've been writing about a lot. And this article is just about that. And the headline reads, "These compostable shoes are made out of kombucha tea waste." And I had to talk about this because if anybody else has ever had to deal with SCOBY, it grows all the time. You feed it every week, kind of like your sourdough starters, right? But you got to keep it going. And because it is a living organism, it continues to grow. And sometimes you got to trim it. It's just too much. And what do you do with that? And I've used recipes to actually cook it and eat it. But this one is beautiful. I love it. What a couple of designers, this is a partnership between a New York streetwear brand called Public School and a materials scientist, Thean Skiros, who came together to create a pair of biofabricated trainers or tennis shoes using alternative leather, which is grown by microbes and is really made out of the SCOBY. Other than the sole, which is made out of a cork sheet, the entire shoe, including the upper, midsole, and laces, is produced using the SCOBY, using the fermentation process that's also used for making kombucha tea. And it creates this leather alternative that it's got like a 97% lower carbon footprint than synthetic polyurethane leather. So it's not real leather. It's a leather alternative.
It's a vegan leather. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a vegan leather. Skiros, who's the material scientist, took the waste from the waste SCOBY from a local kombucha brewery in Westchester County, New York, and then put it into a base of sweetened tea where this turns the sugar into bacterial nanocellulose, BNC, which is part of that fermentation process. And then he was able to use this and turn out these shoes. And what's fun about these shoes, in addition to being made out of what would otherwise just be compostable waste, the bioleather itself has like a lifespan of several years. So it's probably not going to last for 30 years or 100 years, whatever.
Right. So it's not going to stay in the landfill for forever.
Yeah. Because it only, once you put it into a backyard compost heap, it biodegrades within a couple of months. So this is definitely not a shoe you're going to want to leave out in the rain.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it's perfectly usable for several years. And I just like the idea of them. And I just had to talk about this.
Overall, it was a super fun day on the Optimist Daily. I think everybody's feeling a bit Friday. There's a great story about new blade designs that has the potential to reduce wind energy costs. I think we've talked a lot about blade design and creating more sustainable blades as well as circularity around the wind energy blades. So I'm excited to see that continuing to improve. There are Native American nations making vaccines available to all Oklahoma residents. So good for you, Oklahoma. A brain cancer vaccine completes successful phase 1 trials. This one, Kristy, I am a firm believer in. Research. Handwritten is better than typed when it comes to memorization. I struggle with my kiddos, our big kiddos, because they are so digital that putting pen to paper or taking notes by hand is something that they just have never done. And I know that we have to evolve with technology. And certainly, I don't know if Brennan will be a handwriter, but I do know that for my own brain, handwritten is definitely better. What else do we have?
Well, there's an article about muscle-mounted motion sensors that can help detect toxins in the water. That's sort of interesting to see how that works. There's a reading list of anti-Asian racism for the U.S. It's been an interesting year to address systemic racism and sexism, and in response to some of the hate crimes that have really risen last year, this is an important thing to think about. The American bald eagle population has quadrupled over the last decade. This is another success story with conservation efforts, and that's a big win. And our final story, which is our lead story, Oakland, California is going to launch a large-scale UBI experiment. That's the Universal Basic Income, built around the results from Stockton's Universal Basic Income experiment. So that'll be really interesting to see how that plays out, and how just giving some people a bit of a lift up to get them out of the basic survival mode and into a little bit more financial security, what kind of a difference that can make in making a better community overall. So we'll be watching that. We'll see how that goes. I think that's definitely one of the directions in the future that we will continue to watch on the Optimist
Exactly.
Daily.
I think we're definitely bullish on UBI at the Optimist Daily as far as its ability to just increase productivity and economic well-being for communities all over.
It has community lift that are a bit surprising. Yeah. But anyway, that's what we've got on today's Optimist Daily. Go to the website and check that out. And thank you everybody for listening to the Optimist Daily Update today. We promise to keep sharing these kinds of positive solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in a changing world to help ensure it is changed for the good. And also just helping you focus on the solutions that are out there as opposed to the headlines, which tend to, the negative bias gets in there. We'll be writing about that for this weekend's View article as well.
Well, and that's it, everybody. So enjoy your weekend. And please, if you have a moment and are not yet an emissary, become an emissary on theoptimistdaily.com. And for just $5, $15, or $50 a month, you can support reader-funded independent journalism. Be part of the solution, changing consciousness and addressing our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Let's keep the Optimist Daily free to all who need it, supported by those who can. Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. And Kristy, have a great shot.
Thanks, Summers.